Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I'm glad to see you all here. You're probably asking yourself why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed today, and why I don't have on a suit, and why I'm sitting here in a golf shirt and a hat,
Ayuba.
and it is Saturday here. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is true blue leadership. Who's the person behind the curtain? Who's the person behind the title? You know, a lot of people get the title leader or they get the title of executive or boss, and they never let people really see who they really are. And the biggest problem with that is this: if people don't trust you, they will not follow you. And if you can't show people who you truly are, they can't learn to trust you. You have to be willing to show them exactly who you are behind the title, who you are behind the name, who you are outside of the desk. So it's Saturday here. I don't know, it's probably Saturday most over there where you are. And what I'm telling you is that this is the day where you have to be you. You have to take the time to just be yourself and stop trying to put on airs. Stop trying to show people how great you are. People know how great you are by your actions and what you do. You don't have to tell them. The best thing about people knowing who you are is not what you say, but what people say about you and how people talk about you. Do they talk about you in a good frame of mind, or do they talk about you in a negative frame of mind when you're not there? Why? Because they don't know you. They don't know who you really are. And furthermore, because they don't know you, they don't trust you. So there's three things we're going to talk about today. And you want to write these three things down. And these are three questions that I ask myself every day. And I encourage everybody who I teach, train, and mentor in the leadership area. These are three questions you must ask yourself every day. Every day, ask yourself these three questions. The first question is, what three things am I going to do differently today? I did a lot of things yesterday. I've got some habits that I've acquired over time. I've got some things that I like to do, but what three things am I going to try today that are different that I've never tried before? What are three things that I'm going to do today to help me expand my horizons? If you do what you always did, you'll get what you always got. And that's not bad if you're happy with what you're getting. But if you're not happy with the results that you're getting, it's time to make a change. And the only way to make a change is to do something different, something that you haven't tried before, something that you read about, something that someone communicated with you, something that you discovered. Try it. See if it works. See it, what adjustments or changes it makes to the way you do things. It could be good. It could be bad. It could be great. It could be not so great. But you don't know until you try. And if you're not willing to try, you put yourself in a box. Nobody wants to be in a box. Because think about being in a box is like being in a cage. If you've ever had a pet, if you have a pet bird, that bird learns to exist inside of that cage and lives inside of that cage and never really sees the real world. You take that same bird who's never been in a cage, who's always lived outside and flown all over the place at will. Those two birds are the same bird physically, but psychologically, mentally, they are two different animals. They are two different birds. One bird will die or perish because they're used to living in a cage. They're used to you giving them water. They're used to you giving them food. They're used to it being warm or cold all the time. They don't know how to survive on their own. They don't know how to do something different. The other bird never had any fences, never had any confines, never had anything limiting their growth and their potential. Therefore, they fly freely. They do different things. They encounter danger and they know how to deal with it. They encounter not having any water right here, but they know how to go find it. They know how to go find the food that they need. As a leader, if you allow yourself to try new things, to do things that you've never done before, you give yourself the ability to grow, just like that bird that's never had anything to keep them from moving and maturing and going to the next level. So the first question that you want to ask yourself every morning, challenge yourself. What are 3 things that I'm going to do differently today? Whether it's personal, or maybe it's something that you're going to try with, if you are leading a team of people, something I'm going to try differently with my team today. Maybe I'm going to try to talk to 3 of my team members that I haven't talked to yet. Maybe I'm going to take one of my team members to lunch, or 2 of my team members to lunch, and have a conversation with them, because I've never done that before. Maybe I'm going to go sit out with my team instead of sitting in my office today and listen to them and work with them. I'm not going to go out there to try to tell them what to do, but I just want to listen. I want to be there and available for them when they need me. I haven't done that before. These are 3 things that are different. Okay? So try 3 things that you've never done before. Second question. And this question is for the end of the day. What are 3 things that I learned today? Be observant to your surroundings and what's going on around you. So everybody that you encounter can teach you something if you're willing to learn. A lot of times people get into leadership roles and they want to act like they know everything. I'm the expert. I know it. I know what to do. You work for me, and I'm going to tell you what to do, and you go do what I say. Understand, if someone that works on your team does something every day, or they do something on a regular basis and you don't, they're more of an expert about it than you are. They can teach you something if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to listen, if your ego will allow you to come down off your high horse or your pedestal and talk to that person and learn from that person. And if you ask them to teach you something, guess what? Now they respect you because you've come to them and acknowledged that they know something and you don't know everything. People will begin to trust you. People will begin to want to show you things. People will begin to want to have you around them because you're a joy to be a part of the team. So make sure that you learn something. The other thing is, what books do you read? Are you reading any books? Are you spending time watching television? Are you spending time listening to music only? Are you spending time listening to talk shows that are non-educational? But are you reading books? Are you listening to books? Are you listening to educational programs? You can give yourself a plus because you were here last night and you're here today. So you're here both times to help yourself learn something. So you're learning something. So that's one of the things that you learned today. You're going to get three things right now that you learned today. One is you learn to listen to your team, work with your team, learn from your team. Two, listen to books, read books, listen to programs, go to workshops, go to classes, go to seminars, sit at the feet of people who know more than you. If you have the ability to sit at the feet of an elder, just listen, because they can teach you something, even though they grew up in a different time frame than you. They have education, they have knowledge that you don't have. And they can make your journey that much easier. Doesn't mean you have to do everything that they did. Doesn't mean that you have to do everything that they tell you. But at least you know something more than you knew before you sat down. So encourage yourself. Demand that you learn something new every day, a minimum of 3 things. A minimum of 3 things that you're going to do differently and 3 things that you learned today. The third question that you must ask yourself every day: what are 3 things that I shared with someone else today? What are 3 things that I shared with someone else today? Well, Velton, why do I have to share something with someone else? Because leaders create other leaders. And by you sharing information and sharing knowledge and sharing educational content that you've been exposed to, you're developing and creating other leaders. If there are people on your team that you work with, you're helping them get to the next level. The best leaders of organizations are training and teaching people to replace them in their position. Think about that. I'm going to teach you and train you so that you're good enough to do my job. You're good enough to take my job. Why do I want to do that? Because I can't be promoted unless they got somebody to take my job. So if I recruit the person and teach the person to do what I do, now I'm ready to go to the next level. And I'm sure that that person in this level is going to be able to do the job as well as I've done it, because 9 times out of 10, that person is going to be reporting to me. That person is going to be under my leadership. So I want to make sure that they are the best that they can be. So what did you share with the people around you? We talked about trust. If you want people to trust you, share information and knowledge with them. Don't hide it from them. Because when people think you're hiding things from them, or people think that you're keeping things from them, there goes that trust. They don't trust you anymore. If he really wanted me to trust him, if she really wanted me to trust her, she would share that information with me. She would make sure that I wasn't sitting on the outside looking in. I'd have the ability to gain more knowledge so I could gain more promotions and I could gain more money. That's where you build trust with people, because they know that you're looking out for them. You're working with them on their behalf. So those 3 questions are immensely important. What are 3 things that I'm going to do differently today? What are 3 things that I learned today? And what are 3 things that I shared with someone else today? Sounds very simple, very, very simple. But I wrote, as Otis told you, my latest book is called Leadership Dynamics, The Principles of Leadership. Right here. This is the book that I just wrote, okay? Leadership Dynamics, The Principles of Leadership. See it? This is the 90-day companion journal that goes with that book. And it's done in quarters on purpose. Each week has a quote. I'm going to read you this quote, It's by Alexander Den Heer. And it says, solve someone's problems and you produce a follower. Teach someone to solve their own problems and you produce a leader. This companion journal has a quote like that once a week. But every day of the week, it has those 3 questions that I just told you about. And what the reason those questions are in there is I want you to read the quote and understand the importance of the quote. But then I want you to challenge yourself to ask yourself, what are 3 things that I'm going to do differently today? Because I want to create another leader. What are 3 things that I learned today? Because I want to get better at what I do. What are 3 things that I shared with someone else today? Because I want to build an organization or a group of people around me who are just like me. They are thirsty and hungry to get to be the best that they could possibly be, to get to the next level, to go as far as they never dreamed they could ever be. And nothing and no one can stop us, them, from attaining what we want to attain. I said this yesterday. We have 14 people on this line tonight, 14 people here. My question to the 14 of you is, how many of you know each other? How many of you have taken the time to try to know everybody here? Why do you want to know each other? Because these are people just like you. They're hungry and thirsty for knowledge. They can share information with you, and you can share information with them. Not to try to be better than them, but to grow and learn together. So together you can build a better group and a better society. These are your classmates. These are the people that you can build a better environment with, a better culture with. One of the things that you'll hear me talk about as you are around me more is my membership organization is called Culture of Champions, because I'm building a culture of people who think like, talk like, and act like champions. If you know anything about champions, champions are not selfish. Champions are givers. If you're on a team, you can't win if you're selfish. And you call it football, I call it soccer. I coached soccer for 12 years. I'm a licensed referee. Okay? One of the things I can tell you is one of the reasons that the most successful soccer teams are successful is that players are not selfish. The players share the ball. We have some teams, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you, teams from our nations who may not win the World Cup. And the reason that we don't win the World Cup, and it's not because we don't have talent. It's not because we don't have talent on our teams. Because most of the players who come to their home countries to play for their teams are making a lot of money internationally in England, in France, in Germany, all over the world, playing professionally. But when they come to their home team, there's a problem. And the problem is everybody wants to be the superstar. I'm the superstar. I'm the man. I'm the guy who scores all the goals. I'm the guy who makes all the money over at Arsenal, Manchester United, PSG, somewhere in the Bundesliga. I'm the star. But there's only one ball. You have 11 stars, but only one ball. And until they get their ego under control and understand that good teams, and think about this, Good teams become great when the players learn to trust each other enough to replace me with we. When they stop thinking about me and start thinking about we, then they start to win championships. Then they start to win recognition, not as an individual, but as a team. And when you can develop a team around you of people who are thinking more about we than me, your organization will go to greater heights. Your organization will command more revenue. Your organization will get more opportunities because everybody's working for a common goal of success, not for themselves, but for everybody involved. And as a leader, that's what you have to develop. I spoke about Nelson Mandela last night because I really admire Nelson and what he did. The man was locked away in prison for 20 years. When he came out of prison, he could have come out of prison and wanted to get revenge on the people who locked him away. But what did he do? He knew by getting revenge or taking revenge that he would only cultivate the same type of environment in a reversed platform that it was before he went to prison. For his country to ever get to where it needed to be, he had to unify everyone. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. Has it fully happened yet? No, it still hasn't happened, but it's in a much better state than it was before he started. I was fortunate enough to meet him one time, only shake his hand, and that was it. But I admired the man because of what he had gone through. And what he had gone through is not something that he bragged about, but he told the stories to teach lessons to the next generation of what to do and what not to do, how to lead and how not to lead. And we have to learn those lessons if we're ever going to be the best leaders that we can be. Because there's a lesson in everything that we do. Now, I don't know how many of you are religious, but it doesn't matter your religion. I went to church and this pastor said something in a service one day, and I'll never forget it. He said, as a true leader, you have to understand something. When you walk into a room and you walk up to a person, when you're within 3 feet of that person, remember, either they have a blessing for you or you have a blessing for them. That's the mindset and attitude that you have to approach people with. Either they have something they can teach me, or I have something I can teach them. The only way for us to ever help each other is to share that information, is to open ourselves up to those types of conversations. And the first thing is to ask questions, not make statements. As I told you, I was in leadership for 20 years, but I worked in corporate America in corporations for 27 years. And of that 27 years, 25 of those were in sales and marketing. And I learned something in sales and marketing. The best salespeople are not the best talkers. The best salespeople are the best listeners, because they ask a few strategic questions that allow the customer to talk, encourage the customer to give them information, and they listen for the information that they need to offer the product or services that the customer is now going to be willing to buy. But if they go in and they start trying to sell a product right away, the customer tunes them out because it's just another salesperson trying to get me to spend money. But if you go in and you start asking questions about what's important to you, What is it that you need? What problems do you have that I can solve? Asking those questions to uncover that information then allows you to say, you told me this was a problem. If I could offer you something that would solve that problem and allow you to gain more time and more money, would you be interested in learning more about that? You know what the answer to that is in most instances. The answer is yes. Now you can sell that person your idea because you've listened first. You've gathered information based on what they were trying to tell you. Now, what you're offering them is something that they feel as though they need or they could use to solve their problem. It's the same thing in leadership. When you're working with someone, find out what their issues are. What is it that they're looking to do? Why are they here? Where do you want to go in life? As a leader, there's 3 questions you should ask everyone that you lead. You write these questions down. Where are you currently in your career? How is it going? What are the good things and what are the bad things about where you are? Where are you in your career and how's it going? The second question, I understand where you are. Where is it that you'd like to be? If you had the best opportunity in your career, where would you ultimately like to end up or be? Everybody has a dream. Everybody who gets a job, when they get that job, that's not the end of the road for them. They have a dream of where they want to go. They know where they are and they know where they want to go. The third question is, how can I help you get there? You hear what I just said? Where are you in your career? Where do you want to go? And how can I help you get there? You're their leader. You need to understand where they need your help. And if you ask that question, immediately it endears them to you because they know you care. You cared enough to ask me where I am, where I want to go, and then you offered me your assistance to help me get there. Now, you might say to me, that sounds great, Bill, but I'm not sure that that's true. Let me tell you a little story. It's been about 1.5 years ago. I got a phone call that somebody wanted me to send them some pictures for some brochures that they were doing for a speaking opportunity that I had. And I needed a new photo shoot. I needed some new pictures taken. I was in the hotel business for many years. One of my former team members who worked with me, who's on my staff, was now at one of the biggest hotels on Miami Beach. I live in Miami, Florida. So I called him and I said, his name was Felix, but I called him Flex. I said, Flex, I need a favor. I need to take some pictures. I'd like to use your presidential suite to take these pictures. I don't want it for free. I'm willing to pay for it. But I need it. He said, well, how long do you need it? I said, 2 or 3 hours. Excuse me. My photographer and I are going to come down and she's going to take my pictures in the suite, but I need it for about 2 or 3 hours. He said, okay, let me call you back. So he called me back. He said, you can use it on this day. To make a long story short, my photographer and I went down to the suite and I met him in the library. I had not seen him in 10 years. He worked for me 10 years earlier. And when we greeted each other in the library, we were on the elevator. I said, Flex, man, I haven't seen you in a long time. How you doing? He said, I'm doing great, man. I said, I'm so proud of you and where you are. He said, I'll never forget the day we met. And I paused. And I said, really? He said, I'll never forget the day we met. I said, why would you remember the day we met? He said, because you asked me three questions. He said, we worked at a golf resort. He said, you took me on a ride on a golf cart. And I'll never forget the three questions that you asked me. He said, I ask my staff when I go to a new place the same questions today. And I said, what did I ask you? He said, you asked me, where was I in my career? Where did I want to go? And how could you help me get there? And I'm telling you that because, as I said, I had not seen nor talked to this gentleman in 10 years. But he remembered that golf cart ride and me asking him those three questions on the first day we met. Now, here was the magic. So he said, I've got to go down to my office and work. When you're finished, call me and I'll come up and get you. So I said, okay. So we took the photos. We did everything we were going to do. And I called his office and said, Flex, we're ready to go. He said, all right, I'll be there in a minute. So we get on the elevator to go downstairs. Now, I told him I wanted to use the suite, but I didn't want it for free. We're walking out. He says, well, here's for your parking. Here's for the parking for your photographer. And I said, well, don't we have to go to the front desk so I can pay the bill? He said, you can't afford to pay the bill in my hotel. I said, what do you mean? He said, the suite's on me. There's no charge. I used that suite for 3 hours to take pictures. That suite normally US dollars rents for about $1,200 a night. It was nothing, free. Why? Because earlier in his career, I helped him along to develop himself so that he could grow into the job that he now has. And he never forgot it. So what I say to you is, become the kind of leader that people remember for the good things that you do for them. And you'll never have to worry about people down the road wanting to do good things for you. Be the leader that nobody wants to be around, that everybody doesn't like, and people will always set traps for you. People will always be trying to unseat you. People will always be trying to take you down. And sometimes, because we've never been taught the other side, that's who we are. And people are always trying to take us down because we're not willing to expose ourselves first. And they're not always going to win when you expose yourself, because some people are just not good people. But there are more good people in the world than there are bad. And you want to be one of the good ones. You want to be one of the leaders that everybody remembers. Okay. I'm going to, at this point, say, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I've been talking for 40 minutes. We're going to spend the last 10 or 15 minutes answering your questions and having some conversation. So go ahead, ask me any questions that you have. No questions? That's interesting. Okay. Does everybody understand? If you understand what I just talked about for the last 40 minutes, put yes in the chat. If you agree, put a thumbs up. If you disagree, say no, I don't agree. Now, fellas, I'm gonna talk to the ladies for a minute, because right now the world is changing and women are taking their place in leadership roles. And it's not easy because men a lot of times are not willing to accept you as being, as knowing as much as they do or being as good as they are. Do not let that keep you from realizing your full potential, because you were given gifts by the Creator that were only meant for you. Okay, there's a question from Emma. What do you do if you being a good leader, but still someone is trying to drag your character down in the mud? Welcome to the world. It's always going to happen, Emma, no matter how hard you try, but don't let them win. You don't have to combat them with the same kind of attitude that they have. There's a saying we use in the United States that says, kill them with kindness. Sometimes the more angry people get, the softer my voice gets. And it frustrates them because they want me to yell, scream, and holler just like they do. But two people screaming at each other accomplishes nothing. It's just a screaming match. And if they're drowning, remember this: two drowning people can't save each other. They'll only help each other drown. So the question is, are you going to be better than them, or are you going to sink to their level? Okay, let me see as a leader, what are the differences between vision and ambition? Oh, wow, great question. Vision includes everybody. Ambition is only about you. Vision includes other people, because as a leader, you can't do it all by yourself. But never let your ambition cloud your vision. Your vision is not to be accomplished by yourself. Your vision is to be, remember, leaders create other leaders. So in your vision, how do you help someone else get what they want? Because if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get more than you can ever imagine. Okay, James, how does someone engage his or her boss with these questions? Where are you? They're not for you to engage your boss. They're for you to engage the people that report to you. Okay. If you want to ask your boss some questions, you can ask your boss these questions. I would start by first saying, I really admire your position in the organization and where you've gotten to. And I'd love to have the opportunity to do the same one day. Where did you start? Where did you start? And let them tell you their story. If they don't tell you right away, if they just tell you the position they started. So how did you tell me about the journey from where you started to where you are today. And then the last question is, how can you help me with my journey to get a position like yours? Because they can help you more than you can help them. They're in the leadership role, you're not. Okay, let's see. There's another question. If your boss isn't bringing it up, it's probably because they don't know. They don't know how to bring those things up. Everybody in a leadership role is not like that. A lot of people in a leadership role, they're all about themselves. They don't really care about the people around them. And I think I told you yesterday, one of the reasons that I wrote the book that I wrote, one of the reasons I do what I do is I was in corporate America and I watched people get promoted for 3 reasons. They got promoted because they could think strategically. They got promoted because of their fiduciary understanding or of how to increase the bottom line, or their technological skills. And a lot of them got promoted into the big office with the big desk, and they failed miserably because they had no people skills. And a lot of people in leadership roles don't understand that you're leading people. You're not leading businesses, machines, or technology. You're leading people, breathing, caring, feeling people. 10-2, you can ask a question. You don't have to ask permission.
All right. Thank you, sir.
What's your question?
Actually, yeah. Thank you, sir. So actually, I've been dealing with my church choir as a leader. So I always give my question based on my experience with them. How do you as a leader deal with people who are highly motivated? Means they are very hard to be motivated in doing what you want them to do. How do you deal with such people who are difficult to be motivated?
Okay. Well, the first thing I'll ask you is, are you dealing with them as a group or are you dealing with them one-on-one? If you're going to deal with people like that as a group, you'll never accomplish that. The only way to deal with people like that is to sit with each person individually and have a one-on-one conversation, not just one time, but numerous times, so that they feel as though you care about them personally versus the group. Because when the group gets together, they're going to be doing this behind your back, and it's always going to be some mess. But if you sit down with each individual person and they know that you care about them as an individual, it changes the dynamics of the group. They now start to want to connect with you. And they'll go back to the group and say, no, he's not like that. You don't know him. I know him. I've spent time with him personally. Here's how he thinks. Here's what he's trying to do. And I'm on board with it. But if you try to do it as a group, it's not going to happen. They're going to circle the wagons and defend their group against you. Hope that answers your question. All right. Let's see. Next question, Leroy. Can a leader use what has just learned from someone in his group to teach others in the group? Sure you can. Sure you can.